Welcome to the weird and wonderful and exquisitely beautiful world of Markos Kay. At the start of each of the sessions in this series, we are showcasing some inspirational work from some of the leading AI artists and AI designers from around the world. And today we have the distinct pleasure of having Markos Kay and showing his work. Markos is remarkable for many reasons, but for two in particular. Firstly, his work is some of the most exquisite work that I've ever come across using AI-generated techniques. He's been recognized throughout the world. He's collaborated with many important institutions. He's collaborated within commercial worlds, such as commercial firms such as Adidas, Nike, Disney, NVIDIA, and so on. And he's also been played an important role as an educator. He was, first of all, a lecturer at the Chelsea College of Art in London and also the University of Greenwich, also in London, before he became the subject, the pathway leader of animation arts at the University of the Arts in London. But he's also remarkable in another way. Markos is disabled. In 2016, he became diagnosed with a chronic motor neuron disease known as ME/CFS, which has left him housebound and largely bedridden. And as a result, he's a wheelchair user and he is unable to speak as most can. Think of this condition as being not dissimilar to that of Stephen Hawking. But today we're going to do something very, very special. Not only are we drawing upon AI and this AI-generated art, but also we're drawing upon AI to give Markos a voice. Markos has sent us a text outlining his vision about AI and what he sees the potential of AI and how AI has enabled him to continue producing art despite his condition. We have used Synthesia AI to turn that text into a voice, and we will be playing shortly that voice. So AI then has given a voice to someone who otherwise could otherwise not speak. And secondly, we are using our digital platform, we're using DigitalFutures to bring Markos, even though he himself is unable to get out of bed or get out of his house, except by a wheelchair. We are going to bring him into the houses, into the homes of our followers throughout the world. We have also taken this text and we have generated Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic, and we will continue to generate his text in other languages, so as to share his ideas, to share his work with everyone throughout the world, regardless of which language group they belong to. So I'm going to start by playing a short piece that about 5 minutes, that is a text that Markos himself wrote, and we will hear his voice avatar, as it were, reading that out. It's not his voice, it's the voice of someone else, but it's giving voice to him. So let me just play this remarkable statement by Markos.
Hello, my name is Markos Kay. I am a disabled artist and director with a focus on art and science. Over the past 2 decades, I have been working exclusively with generative art methods. Generative art is any kind of art created with an autonomous system. It is a practice which has a long history starting from ancient times. In modern times, it is usually associated with art generated by computer algorithms or code, with early experiments starting from the 1960s. The way computational generative art works is by setting initial parameters and then letting the computer generate an image based on those parameters. Even though there is control over these initial parameters, there is no control over exactly what the computer will generate, and thus the art can be thought of as autonomously made. In my own practice, I have always set out to give the computer as much control as possible. I take the role of a director, guiding the computer to express my concepts and ideas, but also letting it express itself through its algorithms. One way of thinking about this is like the filming of a documentary where there is control over some aspects like the time and location, the positioning of cameras and recording equipment, but the events are allowed to play out on their own with no intervention. AI-generated art is the evolution of this same process and the next step in the long history of generative art. With generative AI tools, again we set some initial parameters that set algorithms in motion which then generate an image based on training data. There is an element of randomness added to this, known as a Monte Carlo algorithm, which is the same method 3D software and scientific simulations use. The output is a recording of this interplay of algorithms that was triggered by our initial input. The impact of this technology will be huge. It will change the way we approach many disciplines, and it is already becoming a new paradigm in the way we approach knowledge and science. I see AI permeating every aspect of digital creation and changing the way we interact with computers in general. This is only the beginning, and everyone experimenting with this new medium is bringing something different into the mix. In a few years, AI tools and all these techniques we are developing right now will become standard practice in the industry. Some people believe that the output of AI is not original but merely derivative. However, these outputs are directed by us and our unique combination of references, viewpoints, and experiences, which bring a unique human element to the equation. The human aspect cannot be separated from AI, it is trained on human data and it is created by humans. It is both a tool and an art form. Art is about intention and expression and thus it is about human communication. It is up to us to use this tool to communicate in imaginative and original ways. AI technology is giving artists the chance to find new creative pathways and to express themselves in ways that weren't possible before because there was not enough time or means. I have been able to visualize projects that I thought would never see the light of day in a matter of days. As someone with a serious disability, this has been nothing short of a miracle as it has given me the ability to create and express myself again, which I felt I had lost because of my illness. This technology is making art accessible to millions of people that couldn't express themselves before for whatever reason or limitation, which is very exciting to see. Working closely with AI can be a very reflective and introspective process. There are a lot of things it can reveal about ourselves and the nature of reality. As human organisms and brains, we could be compared to statistical models that have been trained with incoming data over thousands of years, just like these AI systems. There is something called the AI effect, whereby every time an AI achieves something it is discounted as not real intelligence. People might be doing this subconsciously to retain their feeling of uniqueness, but as AI gets better at things we consider exclusively human, it becomes a reflection of the ways our biological systems are automated. This is fascinating because through creating simulations of brain processes such as these neural networks we get to learn more about our own brains. This ties in with my work from over the last 2 decades, which has been an investigation on how simulations have become the main tools of observation in science. Ultimately, this technology can be thought of as a reflection of the human condition and a mirror for us to understand ourselves better. It is an incredible tool that opens a world of possibilities and new discoveries. Right now we are just scratching the surface, this is only the beginning.
Thank you, Markos. It's a great honor and a privilege to be able to showcase your work on this platform. Really exquisite work, and thank you for that statement, which I completely agree with. So this is the third in our series. In fact, the third in our series, but the second in our series of tutorials. Today we have Sayary and Angelica Ponzio giving tutorials, and we go on to have 3 more tutorials. We are moving from the very beginnings through to the intermediate to the more advanced towards the end, and then we finish off with a pecha kucha and a roundtable discussion for the final session. I just want to leave you to let you have the Instagram handles for those taking part today. Markos Kay, mrk.ism. Please follow him. Absolutely astonishing work that he produces, and he's producing it all the time. Just 2 days ago, he posted some new work. Angelica Ponzio, her Instagram address there, and also Sana El Sayary, her Instagram address here. And below, I will be posting, as will DigitalFutures, will be posting all the updates and in terms of what will be sessions in the future. I would also recommend having a look at the DigitalFutures International website and subscribing to the DigitalFutures YouTube channel so you can be updated on everything that has been uploaded. So today I would like to just introduce our two guests. I say guests, but they're very much part of the, both of them very much part of the DigitalFutures community. First, I would like to welcome Angelica Ponzio, who is herself a central part of the team and also a coordinator for the Portuguese language channel. Angelica studied first in Brazil before going to take a master's at Columbia University in New York, and then coming back to Brazil to undertake a PhD in history, theory, and criticism. She is now an associate professor in architecture and the research and postgraduate program in architecture at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, UFRGS in Brazil. She's also a registered architect in Brazil, and she will be offering today an introductory tutorial on DALL-E. Also offering a tutorial today, and again, no stranger to DigitalFutures, he's been a central part of our discussions on AI, and certainly also of our Arabic language channel, is Sana El Sayary, who is also someone who's had a very distinguished career. To go through all his prizes and awards and first places in competitions would take too long. Suffice it to say that Sana has been highly successful in a whole series of areas, and he's become something of a rock star, both in the Arabic-speaking world and also in the space architecture world. His work has been featured in many different places, including Wired magazine, and he's someone, I think, who's someone to watch for the future, a hugely talented designer and educator. Samer will be giving a tutorial on cracking the code, where I'll be looking at how you can control the AI bots. I will say no more about that. I'll leave it to Samer himself to describe it further. So I would like to welcome Angelica and invite her to kick things off with the first tutorial on DALL-E. Angelica, welcome.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Just let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see it? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the introduction and in such a good company. So today I'm gonna present to you a basic introduction tutorial on DALL-E. Well, this is just my my bio. But what I wanted to say before I start, I'd like to thank my DigitalFutures colleagues and teams, and also my research group from my university, the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, where I have Sara Chornobai, which is also part of DigitalFutures, Christian Fagundes, Sandra Martinez, Ricardo Rodrigues, which is also here at DigitalFutures, and my two research assistants, Gabriel Arenas and Gustavo José, because the work that I'm showing here and the results that I got and all this material was done in the scope of my research and my research group. We also started some research production since last year until today regarding AI and diffusion models. And just listen here, I'm not going to read everything. And we also, I also started experimenting with my students, graduate students at my university. So I'm really happy to show you what we found out. But so first of all, I'm going to explain a little bit about what DALL-E is, DALL-E 2. DALL-E is a deep learning model developed by OpenAI to generate digital images from natural language descriptions, the prompts. It can generate imagery in multiple sites. And one of the greatest capabilities of DALL-E is and the preciseness of its models. One fun fact is that the name DALL-E comes from the words DALL-E and as Salvador Dali, and the Pixar's WALL-E. So they put up with DALL-E. DALL-E was first, DALL-E 2 was first announced in April 2022. If you see like here in the first, the DALL-E was, the DALL-E with other two was launched on January 5th, 2021. And almost a little bit more than a year later, we have DALL-E 2. And on September 2022, DALL-E 2 was publicly opened. In early November, this year, like at the end of last year, DALL-E opened his API, which is allowing many people to use DALL-E in many different other ways. Here, there's just a list of the OpenAI site where they put the biggest capabilities and the flaws on the model so far. So between the greatest capabilities is that it understands the global relationships between different objects and the environment in the image. It has the ability to realistically edit and retouch photos using in-painting and out-painting. And it can take an image and create different variations of it inspired by the original. As not so strong points and still needed to be revised, DALL-E is not as good at generating images with coherent text, meaning DALL-E cannot write words properly. If you want to put up a sign or a brand, it would change sometimes the letters. And it's not good at associating attributes with objects. There's one example that they keep end up being more popular, is like the idea of asking to put a red cube on top of white blue cube, and it kind of mixes the cubes and which one is on top. And finally, the generation of complicated scenes like Times Square. And there's also a matter of bias, which OpenAI is very aware of, and it asks us always to review and not to do or post or use words that they have a list and they're not allowed. And these bias issues are every time the model develops are going to be more resolved. Okay. So I put some links. I will leave all the links later on YouTube or our YouTube channel on the chat or in the description. I'm just brought this just for those who are curious of how DALL-E is organized, how the architecture of DALL-E is organized. But I'm not going to get deep into this because I'm not a data scientist. But DALL-E uses a diffusion model condition. I don't click it. Use more than one model, right? But basically, this is a resume of the main developments of DALL-E when it's speaking. So it's a diffusion model conditioned on clip image embeddings, which during inference are generated from clip text embeddings by a prior model. So from basically we said from a prompt, it embeds text on it is embedding the text of the associated numbers to the text, and then it produces a model called prior, which is going to do the image embeddings, and then the decoder are going to join all the information on the sequence and produce the images. And here's a little bit more explanation of each one of these parts and the clip training that is done. Then the decoder was made with another diffusion model called Glide, and when the prior turn the images into embeddings. Sorry, it's just the clip training and the prior, and then the decode. This one. Well, this is DALL-E's site. When you enter DALL-E, you are going to look at this image, right? And then you have to, if you want to try DALL-E, you have to push this button, and then you're gonna end up on this page. So you have to create your account. You can just log in with your Google account, and you will ask also your valid phone number. And then you're gonna enter, once you have it, on the DALL-E environment, which I made a little video just to show you that here on the top you have your information, and there where you can buy credits. And then this amount of credits that you have, you can join the OpenAI Discord here, and the contents policy here, where they list all the forbidden words or the things that we want us to avoid, and also bias. So they explain all this here. And then we also have the terms, if you want to know more about it, the terms of use. They also describe very deeply all this in here. Okay, so I'm not gonna put everything here. Okay. So this is the, sorry, this was okay. Also on the DALL-E homepage, we have like this information, which I already talked a little bit about how it works and what it is. But most important for those who are initiating DALL-E is that you get 50 free credits on your first month, and after that, 15 free credits every month. And after that, you have to, if you want more than that, you have to buy the credits. The usage and rights. First of all, it wasn't like this, but very soon they changed the policy. So we own the image that we create on DALL-E, including the right to reprint it, sell, and merchandise. Again, the safety system, what I mentioned before, it's the urban use of creating deceptive content. They send messages, and maybe they can take you out of our account, preventing harmful images, and reducing bias. These are the things that are concerned on developing the models. I forgot to say something. I was pleased to be one of the artist programs of DALL-E, which I have been receiving for 7 months, many free generations to test, and now they just invited me again to be one of the alpha testers, because the DALL-E model is changing. After a while, with no upgrades, it's now going to change. They're going to start a 10-day trial for these tests with the alpha testers, and then they're going to refine it, and then with no date yet, but they're gonna be some changes in DALL-E. Well, so let me play this one. So this is when you get your account, you can see the history of everything that you produced, or you can go into collections where you can separate and isolate favorites. So have favorites, you can add the name of your favorites to create your file, to organize your files. And once you go to the history or all the image that you created, you can just put your mouse on the top of it, and it's going to show if you had the history of the image. And if you click on one image, it will show up this, looks like a postcard. And you can download the images. Whenever the images are downloaded, the file name is the prompt. So that's very, very handy. Okay. So here you can see here like all the latest generation that you have, and you can choose one and edit and do some variations. But you remember that this column on the right hand, it stays like this just for the I don't remember exactly how many iterations, but then it starts like moving forward. But you're gonna find all your generations in the history part. Okay. Sometimes I like to use this because whenever I select one here, I can see the history of my generations. And for research, I use this a lot. I take a print of the screen, and then I know, and I put it on Miraboard, and I know all the generations that I have, and I can deal with the content and compare things, what worked and what didn't work so well. But the only way to get the file with the prompt as its name is downloading the image. Okay. Let's see. Yes, I saw this. Well, but before I continue describing more how to use DALL-E, I would like to say something regarding process. So I'm into architecture, so I teach architecture's design studio and graphic representation. And one of my concerns is to how to implement this kind of AI into the design process. So I've been testing with my research group some workflows, and one of them I'm going to present on the next seminar. But this is like one explanation of a workflow where you can divide it on three parts. Like the first one would be like when we're defining the concept of design. It's analogic design thinking, where you could use DALL-E to give ideas. But like first, this is like to decide what are you going to do and how. And then on this second part, that's why we've been trying more the employment of DALL-E. Here's like using DALL-E with Midjourney. So this iteration here. So first we took an image from, we had the text prompt, and then we generated 4 images on Midjourney, and then we take one of the images and we can change the prompt and put it into DALL-E, and then we select it, and then there is no transition yet, flawless from 2D to 3D. So what we're doing is you're just interpreting these images and we're working with facades and trying to understand this, how they work, and move it to Grasshopper to do a 3D generation, and also optimization with Biomorpher. So this is what we've been doing for the last months. And on Cadre, we're going to present this a little bit further developed. So this is one regular workflow for DALL-E. Just image generation, not detail now about the whole process, but we started with defining a design object, which means what you want to generate, and then we elaborate a prompt. Okay, to prompt engineer, which is Samir is going to talk a lot about it, so I'm not going to take too deep into prompt engineering today. So we go into image generations, and we come out with 4 outputs. We can select one output and continue with the design development in architecture with other programs, which are the way that you decide to prepare a process. But you can take this image and do in-painting, out-painting, or change the prompt and generate another sequence of iteration and generations. So this is like the basic. I'm going to show now an example of this basic development. So we start with after you log in, and you're going to open this environment. And then here you're going to have the space to write the prompt. Then this is one example of a prompt. I'm from Brazil, that's when we use Brazilian prompts to test things. So we put the prompt here. I raise it, we use it as my teaching research assistant. We use a name of an architect. So we decided just to block it, just not to have any issues with the references. But then after you put the prompt and it generate the 4 images, we selected one image to keep working on it. And here's what I said before, all our generations are going to be here. But then as much as we start putting more or generating more images, the last ones on the list, on the column, are going to be erased from this column, but they are always going to be at the history. We have all your generations there. Then we're going to start, we can save the generations. When you click here, you download the image as a JPG. And as I said before, the name of the file is going to be the name of the prompt, which is very handy. So you don't need to save it, the prompts, and somewhere else. And you can also push this button for variations. So here's like one example that we push the button for variations, and we end up with more images. Okay. And we can edit the image as well. So there's an edit button, and then you end up with this different environment with this dotted background. And here we're gonna have this, which is gonna be like the size of your pencil or pen, or brush, sorry. And this is like the rubber to erase parts of into doing painting. And this one other icon is to do out painting. And this is to put an image input. So here's like we erase part of the front part of the house. We didn't like it. We could change if you want the prompt, but you just have to be aware that whatever you put in here as something else, it's going to remove it. Since you remove it only this part, it's going to work only in this area. It's not going to change things on the background. So this is the nice laying painting. So this is where the eraser is located, and this is like the size of the brush to erase things. Yeah, sorry. You can use this hand to move this on the canvas, and here you can zoom in, zoom out this image for just better visualization. Sorry. So here we raised that right, and then he wanted to put some more brise or change the screen. So he added the word brise on the prompt. So he ended up with this new images. Okay. Outpainting. Outpainting, You can do it by selecting this icon, and you can move this around. You can put it on the top, on the right, on the left. The important thing is to catch a little bit of the image, the initial image. It's not gonna be losing any reference. It's gonna do something completely different. So this part here is the one that are gonna give some hints to what the style or the continuation that you want to do on the image. And it's also good to erase a little bit of the border, not to leave it like this, because sometimes it can make a mistake and just do a different image on the side. It doesn't happen that often, but it's better advisable to make this, to erase this. And then here we just show that one of the options. It ends up with 4 options, and you can choose which one, whichever you like. I'm going to show another short movie about different alt painting that's going to show everything all together. But one thing to remember is that you cannot, it doesn't save the whole alt painting image. Imagine that if you're going to put another alt painting screen here and it's going to end up with a longer image, you're going to have to download it to keep it on your computer, because it only saves the images as individual, like 124 by 124. So it's going to shape with this square, but not the whole image as a landscape scenery. So you have to download it here so you can change it. That's why the alt paint is not saved in the DALL-E. It's important to download it. Only the portions are saved. And another important thing is to know that all the images in DALL-E are 1024 by 1024. This is but then with the alt painting you can start coming up, coming down, just use this hand to move around. So now another workflow suggestion for DALL-E with a little bit of process thinking. The previous was just really easy, but this is something that we tried a lot, and then it's one of, besides in painting out painting, one of the greatest, I think, the qualities of DALL-E is that you can use input, an image input, and we started experimenting with fragments, what we call fragments. You can either downscale it or take a piece of one image, whatever image that you have, image that you generated, or pictures, or even one. If you have a picture of one of your designs and you want to change something, you can try it. So starting again with 2D prompt engineering, and here we take a fragment or image, and it's usually it's interesting to we tried like this really small fragments or bigger fragments, because it's going to work on the whatever is left on the 124 with the 1024 by 124 screen. So we took these fragments. You can also erase part of it. You have to use all of them, and then you run the image generation, and then you're going to end up with 4 outputs, which like here we have two example generation. Then you can select one of these generations, and you can reset again, work it within painting, out painting, or prompt modification, and you can keep doing this until you reach something that you think it's interesting. You can also here it's one example. This was round, and you turn it into flat here. So you just erase it part, and then I put some over the regular volume, blah blah blah, and then you came up with this corrected. And from then on, you keep on the process. You can take this image. Of course, you can take it to other Midjourney, to as include, or your blend. You can use a contour net. I'm going to show a little bit of contour net at the end of this presentation. It's a new model that just came out of, I guess, weeks ago. And you can try it for 3D, like that math, which is not going to be a 3D exactly, but just an image that gives us this idea of depthness. And you can go into the design development. On our case, we're working with Grasshopper in this, working with facades, doing the outlines, and then on Rhino, and then doing the code, and then taking Grasshopper, and trying to work with optimization with window sizing, and we have a little bit of focus of sustainable design as well with this and making trials. Thanks for our colleague Christian Fagundes that does the Grasshopper partnership and optimizations. Okay, a little bit of prompt. Well, not too much, just a little bit. This is like our experiment because our research is focused not on developing beautiful images, but on developing images that we can use on the process or the design process, either our research process or to be used on undergraduate design studio. So we developed a series of trials with the subject of a house, a small house. We tried tiny house. Tiny house comes with wheels. We tried like cabin. It comes like a log cabin. So we have to be careful with bias for some words, and it depends on the model that we are using. So in order to realize that, we have to try many different words to see which one fits best for your intention. On our case, we end up using the modular small house, could be a modern house, could be something like that. Designed at the beach in Brazil at sunset, some lazy breeze, and here you have a lot of image characteristics, which gives you a better result. We tend to use always the same in order to be able to compare the outputs. Here, we didn't use the word modular, but then it comes with some, and Brazil, so it comes with a bias of what the model thinks or what Brazil is, with palm trees or maybe a lot of green. This is not too much, there depends on the generations. And here, when you put the word modular, you came up with this more modern architecture and modern looking, modular looking like. But for us, the biggest development was the use with an input with a fragment. I call it fragment because I like to think that fragments are fragments of design or architecture. It could be like a volume or a window, or a detail, or a texture. There are some fragments that work better than others, so you have to keep trying things. Like here, you can erase a little bit. This was a house generated by my research assistants on Stable Diffusion, and it ended up that it was the best fragment that we tried so far. So that's why I brought it again. And this is like an out painting with it. So I'm going to show you this sequence on the next slide. So and here we put like things that we think it's important to have for DALL-E on an architecture-focused generation. In our case, it works like thinking on the main object. What is the typology you're gonna wanna try? Is it a house? Is it a building? Apartment building? Interior design? So you put out a word at the beginning. The words at the beginning are always stronger than the results. You can add distinctive qualities, which I call the word keywords. In our case, keywords are the modular system, modular and design. Even if you don't put the word of architect, the name of architects, if you write design house, it's gonna be different as if you don't put it as a word, because if not, it's gonna look like more like vernacular architecture. Okay. Texture is also can be important. Just be careful. We've been trying with wood houses, and it come up with like real like cabins on wood cabins. So it depends on how you put it. You just have to try it. Important things to identify in the scene. We are working with sustainability, so we're trying to check if location, climate would make a change or would give us results. There were climate aware, it gives like a sustainability awareness, like from the black box that we don't know exactly what's going to come out, but we're going to present this in a cadre that we had like good results towards that. Also, it's important. It's nice to put something regarding with light. You can put a sunset or a dawn in the mid-afternoon. Things that would work with the environment and give some different light, especially if you're working with the exterior architecture. The climate is fine. The summer day doesn't give too much results here, but not always gonna work. The location and if you want to have an architectural that is appropriate to definite climatic location, this is going to be very, very important, very useful, much more than to put it on summer day. You can add people, but it wasn't our objective. Sea breeze also, I don't think it helps too much, but anyway. So intrinsic formal object characteristics, architectural style, or specific characteristic. Now here it's small because you wanted a small house. You're working with small units on the design studio. And complementary characteristics, I use sometimes like surfer, windsurfer, because I like that. And then it gives a like more of a beach, but this is for myself, not for the research. And the image qualities that I explained before. So we have like also, this is the one that we use. You don't have to put this many, and it differs, or you have to try which one will work better for you. So for example, if you put poster image, it's gonna give like a graphic representation, not much as a real one. And it doesn't mean that we are using all this, but we just select a few of this. But for all these generations, we repeated the same wording. So here's with fragment. Okay, so let me play this a little bit. So this is the generation of that painting, the big image. And here I go to my files. I select my fragment, which is the house, right? But we isolated in Photoshop. And then you can downscale here if you like, because it's going to work on the background, right? So the bigger this image is, the less area it's going to have to play with. We tried also to put 2 fragments, and you can dislocate it and download it or charge. And after you put them, you again take the screen here, the frame, sorry, to define the area that DALL-E is going to generate. And then we put the prompt or change the prompt a little bit, and then we generate. So it's going to come up. You can use the hand to move this around. Okay? And it's going to come up with 4 options. And here are the options. You can choose which option you want to pursue. As I said before, these are all the different options are saved in history, but the whole outputting is not going to be saved. You're going to have to download it. So here I'm doing the outputting to the right, and I decided to put. This is very important. If you want to do a long output, the further you go apart, the image start losing its quality, its precision. So it's important that you add, if you like, right? But it's good if you again the fragment, so it's gonna pick up from this and not only this. So it starts getting distorted if you don't use anything, depending on how you do it. So again, erase this board, just this, and then it did this. So you can see that in some of them, start losing or showing some distortions. So you can fix those later as well. So I went all the way to the right, always bringing again my fragment, right? And I started to try to help the perspective, like these are the bigger fragments, not the smaller fragments. And it's interesting that it keeps with the reflections and the shadows, and it understands the environment, which is amazing. So let's see. There we are. So here, this is a little bit more distorted, right? And not all of them are good. So I try to pick the one that fits best in size and perspective, and I'm gonna fix this later. And then again, these are the other fragments that I've been using. These fragments were all from generations either on DALL-E or on Stable Diffusion or on Midjourney. So again, remove it. I started to erase the bottom part, and it's interesting that you can identify this is exactly here and here and here and here. You can it reproduces. It doesn't touch this. This is going to be inserted on the whole image, and it's going to get these characteristics to do the houses. Okay, and here I'm just gonna erase that to make it to fix a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to fix, it doesn't get it. So I erased some part of the prompt to try to simplify it. So it doesn't think that you have to do, sometimes you put something new, he's gonna put like a person or something right exactly here. So this is, whenever you get satisfied, you just have to download it, because as I said, it's not gonna be saving this on the history, on the gallery. Okay. I don't know, so I was repeating it. Well, here's some other experiments that they made. This is for the presentation class that I teach with other colleagues. Just to show that from one fragment, you can generate different environments depending on what you put in the prompt. If you want a snow, if you want a lake, if you want a desert, or if you want to build a group of houses and you're gonna put this. And what I found was really interesting. I took from the internet this tree because I wanted to do a forest, a rainforest. And because I had a fragment, there was a house, and then I put the tree, and then it from this tree catch all the colors and change a little bit the tree. So you can manipulate and design with the model like this. This is what I said before that we did from one of our researchers. We're just at the beginning when we did this, then we evolved it more. So I was trying like this as image fragments. I pick up this image that was generated on DALL-E and I erase most of it, and then I like the window, so I left it, and then I put it, I downsized it, and then we did prompts with tropical equatorial forests, the Mediterranean climate, the desert climate, or the glacial snowy environment. And from it's interesting to see that there's different fragments. They give us different responses depending on which climatic region you're working with, and they give us not only things that are look like from culturally from the areas. We didn't put necessarily names of places, but we put the climatic zones, and it started giving responses that would work very well on those places. And here, just because of this work, we just presented this. It was a brief presentation for the Brazilian AIA. We just showed them that from one of these, you can study different facades, and then again, work with Grasshopper, for example, and to do optimization with the windows or the openings that you can work. Then here, just to show DALL-E, I think it's very good for interiors. I also work with interior and interior design. So I think it was fun to revisit some currents and tendencies. And it can draw axonometrics, isometrics. You can use like drawings that look like hand drawings, or different kind of representation depending on how you organize your prompt. And one thing that I did here, just to show, let me see. This is from a shelf that I designed for a client long time ago, and then I put just the shelf here, and I wanted to have like the whole wall of shelves that start designing and giving me choices. And the one just like curiosity. Yeah. I'm almost at the end of my presentation. I think one good site for you to look for references, and it's this the DALL-E gallery, and they have many materials. And one of the best things that they have like since July 14, which may seem like ages ago, is the DALL-E 2 prompt book. But this is the index, but it has a lot of good examples, and it's very easy to understand and use it and collect it. It was done mostly for artists, as all these models were, these diffusion models were designed basically primarily thinking on artists, but slowly they're opening up and making the database for other things like architecture. But still, there are a lot of things that you can take from here and to help us to do a prompt engineering. Finally, you can join. I don't remember if I said before, like, but at the right hand side of where you have your account, there's one invitation: join our Discord, and this is the Discord. So it's what is good here. They have the useful links, and they have the announcements. Which whenever something is new or changed in the model, they will publish here in announcements. This is for DALL-E, and this is for ChatGPT. And well, I'm done with DALL-E now. I hope I can come back later when the model after it's changed, to see exactly what it changed and improvements. I'm very excited about it. But before I finish, I'd just like to bring some more things. This is the controlling diffusion model that was launched, I guess, 2 weeks ago or something. By the way, if you want to be updated on models and models and tech, I advise you to get into Twitter, because many of the CEOs and the data scientists are on Twitter posting all the new things coming up. Instagram is also good as well, but I find it in LinkedIn a little bit good also, but Twitter for me is the biggest source of novelty. So this is a model called ControlNet. It's on Hugging Face and also has a familiar, easy to deal with platform. It's just for trials now, and it's free because it's a beginning. But what is interesting about this diffusion model is that you can control the subject. So here I put an image that I made on Midjourney, and then you put a prompt. You can use those regulations. I didn't use any of this. I just put the prompt on my image, and it will produce a version or interpretation of the outlines of the image that you're bringing. So it's important that you have an image that have clear definition between planes and identifiable. And from this, and then I put a house at the beach, and then it produces this. And then but it has different models here with different names, so you can keep trying from one model to another. So these are the outputs of these different models. This is the head, scribble, and hug. I'm not gonna go into this now, but just to show you how it's working and how different it's coming the outputs. But the nice thing is you can maintain, if you wish, you can erase also here. You can erase on Photoshop. There's one option, which is this one, which is Scribble Interactive, where you can draw anything here. You can regulate your brush here, and it's gonna, from your sketch, it's gonna generate something new. But you can, this one gives depth map here and the new image, but you can change the environment, and I want this to be at the snow, and I want to be at the beach, I want to be at the mountains, at the fields or a country. So this was something my students were always asking, how can I keep the model and just change the environment? I don't have to do like a render for my presentation. Well, it seems like I can use this now, but it's just at the beginning. Okay. And here we're going to have this further up on the series, but I like to put it here because something of my interest as well. The forum, which we can make animations. And the point here, they're going to have like also at the end of the series more presentations on this, on the 3D resources that we have so far. So I guess this is it. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing. I hope it was useful, and I'm going to put some links later on YouTube. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and I want to invite Samir to make his presentation. I don't know, Neil, if you want to say something or.
No, Samir, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me today. Just in a second, I'll start sharing my screen.
Let's keep the questions for the end, right?
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you guys for having me today. I would like to share my my experience and my experimentation since like the last 7 or 8 months, the age of the AI, and I'll try to brief it a little bit. It provides our audience today with more like a horizontal general knowledge, and then you can dive into the vertical specific skills of a certain AI bot. So let's start. So what is AI, and why is this slide so important to understand our position today and where we stand? Well, these are defined as disruptions or disruptive technologies that have changed our profession and the architecture, education, hence, and everything that is related to our domain. So before or prior to the 1980s, the manual techniques, the brushes, the T-squares, the pencils, that was the dominant element in the architecture studio, and studio means bureaus or offices, and the education studios as well, until the emergence of what is known as the CAD, computer-aided drafting, which turned and developed very shortly and rapidly into the concept of the computer-aided design. And since that time, the computational design experiments and research had just started. Till we reached the edge of 2007, 2000, started actually from 2004, when the MIT just sold their Revit software into the Autodesk company, which has started developing it to the commercial phase. And we found the Revit and a tsunami of BIM softwares, which developed also to a complete project management domain, which is defined as the building information modeling, which later also was a little bit altered into building information management. And since 2022 and the start of this year, and we have experiencing a new domain, when we are just on the tip of an iceberg of what is known as the artificial intelligence. We have learned from history of this computational design, and I've been lucky enough to just witness its start since I was in the university as a student in the 1990s until now, that we have witnessed the emergence of each technology. There is multi and various forms of software packages that start to decrease by time, and the competition and the challenge is so hard. So just like 5 or 4 limited softwares which can crawl its way path up to the top and be the dominant. But it is very important at the beginning of each technology to understand the fundamentals of this technology and to understand the science behind those softwares, not to dwell directly into a particular software, rather to understand how the mechanism of those technologies work. So later on, you can turn from this horizontal broad kind of knowledge into a vertical specific tricks and tips and skills of one software. And the same applies on today's presentation. So we are anticipating that the future will carry a very deep and developmental phases of the AI. Actually, many economists could consider that the fourth industrial revolution will be the AI based industrial revolution. So from the last 25 years, my experience as a 3D professional modeler, we have been in working on 6 different phases, sequential phases, starting from modeling, then texturing, then lighting, then camera, animation, and finally in 3D printing. Of course, I'm an architect by education and by profession, but I have been working also in TV commercials. I made various TV commercials. I designed or participated in gaming design, and lastly, since 2016 in space architecture. So that gave me also a good understanding about how can you be flexible in producing your models. But these are the roadmap of producing a professional model, which some could consider as a design model rather than a 3D model. It is a design thinking process to think in the hyperdimensional realm, in the open dimensional realm, not only limited by a 2-dimensional sketch or even a 3D physical model, but understanding that the 3D, it is the open dimension, it is the quantum realm of the unlimited dimensions. And we have also agree that dimension is defined as the degree of freedom. So you have here a numerous kind of dimensions. You can control even time. And that was my recent scientific paper published. Since 2016, 2017, I've been working on the time as a shaping parameter in generative design. Now let's switch to the AI, which has changed the game totally, but we also have a sequence of steps that we have to understand and to respect. And while we are speaking, this methodology is being developed not only by myself, but by the leaders of this industry and the producers and developers working in parallel with the designers, artists, and architects, who is the ultimate users of such a technology. So we start instead of modeling, texturing, we start by defining with text the object, the context, and the situation. And then later, instead of texturing, you have to understand what is your material palette. And of course, the lighting, it's the same, but switching from using specific parameters in defining your light, you are using situations like at dawn, at dusk, at sunset, or maybe you prefer the artificial kind of lighting. and then switching to the rendering style, which might be borrowed from a specific artist or a specific cinematic setting. And lastly, the number 5 and 6, it is the two remaining steps that we are anticipating to close the loop and to close the circle. So and we are witnessing the just mere starting and beginnings of the animation in the AI. And I do believe in very few months also we might witness the 3D printing and the 3D model generation from AI. So at the previous era, prior to the AI, it took me just 10 to 12 days to produce 3 images. And what I mean with images, I mean designs, concept designs, notions being depicted into physical form. It took me like 10 days. After the AI, the sudden shock that those same 10 days, I have been producing more than 2,000 images, and this is a real experiment using the first application that I started training on, which was DALL-E AI, which recently was retired, by the way. And that proves that many software will not stand the competition. It might be not the technological competition, but the economic or the feasibility or the business model that can't stand making profits. So by using DALL-E AI, I've produced in the same 10 days 2,565 images. So that is the mere definition of productivity and their original concepts. No one image is resembling the other one. It is original designs in just 10 days. And this is really was shocking and disrupting to all design methodologies that we have learned and been teaching. So what is the AI? AI is different from the modeling. The modeling, you are the hero, you are the operator, you are the driving force behind the design. But here in AI, you are just unlocking synergies with your design assistant, your design participant, your design partner. So it is thinking with you, it's communicating with you, it's learning from you, and it's solving complex problems that your human brain mind cannot just solve. And lastly, it can also make the automation process easier. As scientists believe, we are developing and switching from the narrow AI to the general AI. The narrow AI, it is the one that had been available out there maybe from the 80s, maybe earlier from the 70s. And let's just do not forget that the AI as science was developed and emerged from the 1950s. So it is a very old science, but it had been developing rapidly since the 1980s in the autopilot programs, even Siri on your iPhone, the gaming that we have been all using since we were kids, Facebook algorithms, and all kind of social media algorithms. All of these are just the narrow AI application. And we start to switch into the second phase, which is the general AI simulating brain knowledge mechanism. And we are waiting for our dream to come true. And no one knows actually the dream of the super AI. Would it lead us to a utopian scenario or a dystopian scenario? Scientists have two different opinions. Super AI might help us to thrive, but others have another opinion and consider the super AI as one of the existential risks that might end our race on this planet. And they, according to science, they classify it as one of the 16 different existential risks, which is an anthropogenic existential risk, which means that it is a man-made existential risk. But nonetheless, it is a very advanced technology. If we succeeded in controlling this kind of technology, we would really, we can go to the stars, we can colonize planets, we can raise our civilization from Kardashev scale 1 type civilization into 2 and maybe 3 in no time. Also another classification, and there are several classifications of the AI, starting from the reactive AI, which is not based on any prior knowledge, like the chess masters, Google AlphaGo, whatever, to the limited memory AI, like the autopilot cars used in Tesla cars, for example, and then the advanced man-like AI, which we are hoping to see very soon, understanding our emotions, our feelings, and it acts as if it is a human behavior. And we can find each and every day one news that is leaked from Google or from whatever, or the Microsoft binge that they also feel, the AI bots can feel the upset and the depression feelings just like human beings, but also stays the myth, which is the self-conscious AI exceeding our human intelligence. And I do believe in my deep self that it does exist, but we are not allowed yet to use it. It is not allowed yet to be open to public, maybe due to the problems that scientists have just alarmed and warned us against, that it might cause our mass annihilation someday, for God forbids. So for the machine learning process, we just have to understand in this tutorial the main basic notions and keywords and abbreviations that is fundamental in our industry and in our new kind of science and application. Starting with the artificial intelligence, it's a very broad, very generic, excuse me, very generic word, which implies the theory and development of a computer system that mimics and simulates same cognitive task as human intelligence. Very generic. Let's switch to a deeper and a higher level, which is called the machine learning, computer learning without being programmed. So it is a self-developing kind of code. And switching to the higher level of the neural networks, which simulates the human brain mechanism and the learning mechanism of the human behavior and its nervous system. And of course, the most and the upper highest level, which is the deep machine learning algorithm, which acts like a brain with a logical structure. And it is which is known also as the artificial neural networks. So the machine learning, it is a process with a multi-hidden layers, which can produce some kind of a knowledge input layer and then start to assess this input layer and develop it until it reaches the maturity level, which is accepted by its logic into the output layer. And at 2014, the mere development of what is known as the GANs, or the generative adversarial networks, and we are in the luxury of using such a technology right now, which is used more in the art to just start to generate some kind of original and novel art and start discriminating, is it accepted or not accepted? If it is not accepted, it should be regenerated. And I've been reading and studying a lot of papers in this field in all kind of various applications, in the urban design, in the art criticism, in all kind of theory that you can imagine. And later on in 2019, just 5 years later, the occurrence of GPT-3, the generative pre-trained transformer. And by the way, we are waiting for the GPT-4. GPT-3, with its most famous and well-known application, the OpenChat GPT, which has ended its knowledge and its relationship with the database at 2021. So even we are, with its amazing and incredible skills, it is an obsolete kind of AI bot. It is a human-like text. And later in 2022, we had found the stable diffusion. So one step just delivers to the other and second step. Text image generators, we are all using it, and the tutorial of today's, me and my colleagues will be explaining the text image generators, but also image to image translation guided by text and the in-painting and out-painting, which kindly Angelica had explained prior to my presentation. So my today's presentation is a general knowledge after experimenting the set of those AI bots. This is what I concluded from using all of those AI bots. And I've been experimenting also in another platforms that have been not in the commercial phase. It's not announced yet. I've been developing and testing several AI bots. I'm not really, I cannot reveal anything according to the non-disclosure agreement, the NDA that I have signed. But this is a general knowledge after an extensive work and research in several AI bots. So who am I and what was I doing pre the AI era? My design methodology, my design school of thought is depending on the using of biomimicry, biomorphism, biophilic design, zoomorphism, all kind of digital biodigital form methods and form finding methods. I also use the visual analogies depicting even philosophical constructs, and why not also using the visual puns? It gives fun at the end. So design notions, it was really incredible at the beginning to understand that design notions could be translated into AI prompts. So that means that the client wishes could be turned into keywords, and those keywords could be used to train the AI bot and generate some kind of design images or maybe art. And that might help actually in the process of the human-centered design, the empathy and the compassion, what the client really would like to see. We can use his own words and convince him with the feasibility of his design, or vice versa. The uncertainty that this design might be a really good idea, or even the architect's own philosophy, our social narratives that we use in a certain culture, or the technology-driven design, computational design, name it. We have been studying books and references of theories. So those texts, even if you didn't have the skills to produce art, you are now an artist. You are now an artist if you have the beautiful mind. You know, the really word of beauty and art, as I have hearing from Renzo Piano. He had a very, very beautiful presentation actually on TEDx. He said that art and beauty is not a frivolous idea. It is not a silly notion, but actually we say something beautiful. That means it is the really beautiful in function, beautiful in philosophy. It's beautiful mind. So translating that beautiful mind into a visual depictions, that what had AI really provided us with. It gave whoever cannot produce art using the brush or the mouse, but can produce art because his mind can produce art with a very fine tools, which is the AI. So before the AI, I tried to understand nature according to the biomimicry and the biomorphism. So those are one of the awarded projects, the Lunar Oasis. It is a space phase 3 colonization and class 3 space architecture according to 1997 NASA classification of space architecture, without further technical details. But the driving force on generating such a colony was several images and several pictures, but those pictures are pictures that came from Wikimedia or Wikipedia, like with associated concepts and notions like the anthropization, trying to terrace or to contour mountains to produce farms, and blending this concept and turning this concept into a visual design, into a biophilic design, part of under a lunar lava cave, importing part of Mother Earth with its human behavior. So this was just my brain action. This was my brain production. This was my brain and my work prior and before AI. And understanding also the ant colonies, one of the most sophisticated engineering works ever nature has to teach us. Using that science and understanding the fundamental mechanisms of ventilation and heat transfer and whatever, and even which led into even its form, its distinctive central shaft with the undulating concentric formations, and try to produce the colony based on the previous driving images and driving visual forces. So also the lunar space elevator, which was awarded in 2020 at the Corona time, the COVID-19 time, it was a hard time, but at the same time, it gave us the luxury of time to produce and understand, and understanding the mechanism of the contraction of the muscles of the eye and the lens of the eye. So I produced the first space elevator and deep space telescope, depending on the same drives and the same concept. Of course, this is a mere translation of the biomimicry, using just images and understanding the basics and trying with a trial and error on the 3D modeling softwares, working in a hyperdimensional media, no AI aids, nothing. Also, the marine life and the deep sea life, one of the most durable and sustainable of life forms, the coral reefs, and tried to develop the Tree of Life, which was awarded in Mars City Design First Prize Energy Award in Los Angeles. And that was my experimentation. But after the AI, things had a dramatic turn. Things were really amazing, and life was easier and difficult at the same time. Easier because at the tip of your finger, you can generate thousands and hundreds of images. But the really hard and difficult part, what design you will choose, what design you will develop. You have like hundreds and thousands of design generated just in one day or 2 days or several days. So what is the design alternative that you will choose and start developing to reach an end output, match your design? And here also, let me include the power of social media, the professional social media, of course. So in LinkedIn, during developing some of the projects, I've just asked for the professional help in developing this Tree of Life. And later on, really I got my professional engineering opinion with some notions and some fundamental understanding which drive me in training the AI bot and in prompting engineering of the AI bot. So later on, also, I'm a sketcher. I'm a designer by education. So we have been taught how to think using the two-dimensional media, which I tried to scan. I scanned it and then uploaded into DALL-E and even Midjourney and Dawn AI, and start generated depictions after defining the mood and the material palette and everything. After, of course, understanding from our engineering professionals, colleagues, which gave me the insights and the guidelines how to design for space. Until later, I decided to start what I defined as the impossible scenarios of synthetic natures, the project Treehouse. So the project Treehouse, it is a nice project that I've started and I didn't, and it's still a work in progress. And I just pass by this project in each AI bot to understand the various differences between the prompting and the tricks and try to understand how these AI bots, let's do not forget that each AI bot has its own biases, its own a kind of distinctive and novel art due to its training and the database that it has been trained upon. But at the same time, all of those AI bots carry some common features, and those common features is the capsule that I try to summarize and wrap it for you guys today. So let me, without further ado, so the impossible scenario, it is the scenario that doesn't exist in our today's technology, but it might occur in the future technology. Let's do not forget, just 300 years from this time, we didn't have airplanes, we didn't have cars, we didn't have electricity, even we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything. The most advanced technology just 300 years ago was the wooden wagon pulled by horses, and today we are experimenting something that might be considered as black magic to people who lived just 300 years ago. Jules Verne, the sci-fi writer, just imagine putting people in barrel metals and letting them in the deep water, and just 160 years after his writings, we have invented the submarine. He have imagined and in his writings shooting people in huge cannons to the moon. And just 200 years, in 1969, we have launched our Apollo mission 11 and landed our first human foot on moon. So what we are witnessing today is not, I do believe, in my opinion, of course, in my modest opinion, that this is not just art. It is the scenario of the future. We are writing the scenario of future. So having a hybrid living organism, living in a living organism, considering the tree as a kind of habitat, instead of constructing or building your house, we will grow our houses. So could we taste architecture? This is one of my favorite projects. In one lame afternoon, I was just so hungry that I start depicting the falafel. It is a very popular kind of food here in Middle East, and I think in several parts in the world right now. So I try to imagine this kind of falafel, which suddenly pop up. Why don't I use this kind of food and growing the falafel tree? Would it be a science fiction, or maybe the genetic engineering and the biology science could someday really succeed in growing or in building something hybrid, synthetic synthetic nature, which can, instead of producing tomatoes or some kind of a vegetable, it might produce our falafel, our taste. And this project actually start, and then I try to develop it for an LG competition for design. So why not developing this tree into a hydroponic system, which instead of also growing a specific kind of vegetation, it might grow the ingredients of the falafel, and then using the 3D printing might fuse them together, and with a microwave maybe built inside, it just can produce your own falafel ready to eat in a span of like 2 or 3 weeks, and just with accelerating, of course, the process of growth of those ingredient vegetables inside it. So that might be the scenario of the future. So the AI, right, it is an inspiration that gave me inspiration, and it needs inspiration. So the more you read, the more you can utilize efficiently the AI. This is one of the learned lessons of using the AI. Another prototype, and I just later on saved those kind of projects into the space colonization project, which I will present later in just a few minutes. So understanding also the marine life, the one on the left is an AI generated image depicting the marine life. How can it influence and reshape our buildings? but the image on the right, it is a real life building which was developed for Dubai, and it is a skyscraper which also derives its form from the dendry form, the tree structure, the arboreal architecture, which are all new notions for me. I just learned those notions from using the AI and watching my colleague artists working on such similar concepts, which I started to be inspired from. Of course, in the passive way, not in the active way. And what I mean with the passive way, I just see the image and try to simplify and make a rationalized version of nature inside the architecture that would be built in real life. And I do believe that the active way will be the automated way. Someday, which I believe in the near future, the AI will be also equipped with the logic to construct such a building, maybe with our minimum supervision and guidance. And switching to the cotton candy, some kind of another different, something that is totally unlogic, something that you cannot really comprehend or process with your human brain. How can a cotton candy turned into a tree house that has been resided by human beings? That is the impossible scenario. Things that are not related, or no kind of logic between them. Seeing things from a new angle. Was the power of AI. And understanding the environment and the parameters of the environment. So why not to grow tree house from the sand, not from the fibers of wood or whatever the real biological plants? So merging a new scenario. Can we just make a smart or invent a smart material that being guided by the algorithm or maybe the nanobots someday and start growing those genetic kind of hybrid creature that could be also that would be the ultimate sustainability. It is something that is using the local resources and the local materials to build up at the same time with the algorithm of trees, which is very resistant to all kind of environmental disasters and catastrophes. So that also might be a scenario for the future. And turning to the North Pole, what is the future of the igloo habitats? The habitats that are being built from snow, all kind of snow, the transparent ice being frozen from the water or even the snow, that might be also the future of the igloo instead of being just having this dome. No, I think there is another alternate scenario that might occur. And of course, why not turning to novels, the classical novels, Cinderella in the Clouds. We all know Cinderella and its pumpkin chart. It is a very beautiful novel. But what if Cinderella had descended from the cloud or even ascended to a cloud? And here I started experimenting also this scenario, this fairy tale, which might really change. And maybe someday we can just merge two kind of novels, Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, and voila, something new might emerge that might really contribute to the human literature and the human legacy in the future. What is the future of Africa? The zoomorphism, understanding how might something that looks like it is so primitive yet so sustainable, it can carry the potential also to be developed. And it started the AI bots surprisingly taking the texture and deriving the textures from all kind of animals that you can find in the African continent, from giraffes to zebras to whatever kind of cheetahs that you can find, and merging those with the treehouse. And the experimentation goes on, and now something from the movie industry, the steampunk, Tim Burton and his inventions. Could that also depict us a new kind of architecture that looks like a ferry boat with a steam engine, or a train that is being used in the 19th or even the 20th early century? And by adding some few words to the prompts, please add me intricate details, hyper detailed model, and it start getting out all of its piping system to the facade of that building. Of course, till now, that might be considered to be art rather than architecture, but it still can give us insights of what we didn't imagine and what we cannot imagine using our own human capabilities. And why not to switch the old materials with a shiny new stainless steel material, which might result in a new hybrid form of architecture between the steampunk and the high-tech architecture, but still it is the same project also of the treehouse. So I've been developing with nature and inconsistency with nature, and start to understand that this kind of shiny materials will reflect its natural context and the changes in the daylight system. And switching to the biomorphism, understanding that also that the forms derived from nature might give us insight. And maybe I have just presented the slide, that this design in an earlier version, which had been developed and used in a real life scenario, but deriving forms from the marine life, the jellyfish, and the different marine life and habitats in the deep sea water also give us some very interesting solutions. Understanding the natural patterns created by nature, starting from the Voronoi patterns, the dendriforms patterns, the bees patterns, and trying to study the impact of those patterns on architecture. And luckily, those patterns really provided me the insights, something that can break the solar exposure and start to give us a beautiful pattern of shadows. So like more than 50% or 60% of this facade, even on a very high sunny day, it could be under shadows at the same time. So with those patterns also could be someday smart patterns that could be changing according to the environmental parameters. So that is another lesson that is learned from nature. So can we just blend a style with a natural pattern like the arabesque or the Islamic ornamentation with the Voronoi, for example, and a new kind of also architecture interiors that looks like it is an arabesque or an Islamic or even Gothic kind of architecture. But if you just zoomed in and started to pay attention to the details, another level of perception will be unlocked, that all of those patterns are in reality, it's natural patterns, nothing man-made or an anthropogenic pattern. It's all derived from nature. So that gives the blend of two identities that surprisingly, they work in consistency with each other. And the calligraphy studies, and now I have realized that there is a new parameter in the AI prompting engineer, which is called the weight. So at the beginning of the early experiments of my treehouse calligraphy, those were the results. But later on, when I just try to understand that there's something called the weight, I started from the image from the left, which was like 70% to trees. When you just repeat the word trees, green, vegetation, leaves, more than the calligraphy, that will be the result. And when you try to balance things out between the tree or the green and the calligraphy and the properties and feature traits of the calligraphy, that is the result. But when you increase the description and detailing of the description of the calligraphy over the tree, that is the dominant element, which is the words or the calligraphy. So this is another blend. So during the last or the past 7 months, a scientific background or a methodology has been formed and forged. And about merging.
Samir, maybe just to interrupt slightly, perhaps we could move on to prompts at some stage, because it'd be very interesting to know how you manipulated the prompts.
Yes, sure. I'm sorry if I've just exceeded the time. So let's just exceed a little bit those. I would like to just give a highlight on the last project that is the first project that has been developed with the AI. And by the way, me and my team have registered a new word, and we should receive the certificate recently of what is known as the IAD, or the Artificial Intelligence Aided Design. So that project, Mars Reefs, it is a project for space habitat, but it has been developed simultaneously using the OpenAI ChatGPT and text image generators both at the same times. It is so the first question that I've been prompting to the ChatGPT about the coral reefs, could it be a source of inspiration? And it started giving me the roadmap and the reasoning and the argument, which is the most significant important within the point 4 and point 5, the sustainability and the function. And later on, after studying and prompting, and I have decided to take the brain AI pattern and rationalizing nature, which is the process of information reduction and compression of a natural formation with the goal of simplifying and organizing the geometry. So I re-asked again the open AI ChatGPT to what is the roadmap to produce such a form, or turning those natural pattern into an architectural form. And it started also giving me the roadmap by branching, by studying the branching, interconnectedness, and repetition. And then later on, I started defining the basic shapes and elements, establishing rules using the shape grammar, and trying to reproduce the scale, proportion, and orientation, the structural stability, and trying to understand its impact on the structural stability, aesthetics, and function. And I start taking those advices seriously and start establishing the first vocabulary. And those vocabulary with a set of rules which produce an infinite modular system that is derived by nature and looks like nature, but it is the work of an engineer. And balancing and understanding the relationship between solid and void using even DALL-E 2 and producing those and impact and reflecting those into the design and trying to understand the interior space of such and turning it into habitable zones and also reflecting those images on the design. Understanding also and using the Dawn AI to understand the connections and the unlimited infinite habitable zones derived from the AC duct, the air conditioning ducting system with its connections, and started also inserting those connections into the form being built. So let's just skip some of those parts. That was the award. Of course, the in-painting methods as well. Trying to understand image translation guided by text from marine life into architecture. Now, let's focus on the theory, cracking the code database. The fundamental 5 questions from text image generators after the study of all of those softwares and its impact in the design process, I have concluded the following. If you'd like really to master and crack the code, you have to answer those 5 questions. You might use any service, GPT service. You can even write it down in your note. Try to prepare before using the AI. So it starts with the what. What is the design that you'd like to do? To fulfill this goal, you have to be in a good command of English. You have to be provided with a prior art abbreviation knowledge, and you have to build your own strong philosophical construction notions. And switching to the second W, which is the one, what is the timing during day or night, sunset or dawn? What is the historical era? So that is the time parameter. And then the geographical parameter, where? Where is your geographical locations? Would you like to describe it rather than use a specific city? It's fine. What is the environmental parameter or the set of parameters that you'd like to define? Is it a natural context or an urban context? What are the entourage? What is the entourage, the people and vehicles that will be surrounding your element? And how would you like to produce this kind of art? What is the rendering style? Sketch. If you'd like to use the camera, what is the specifics and specifications of that camera and the shot, height and angle, and of course, proportion. And lastly, who, which is the specific artist or a specific artist's style with his own description. And switching from that, you have also to exclude what you would like not to see in your design. Using the negative prompting, exclude out what do you not wish to see. Using some words like without, excluding, or simply use the minus sign. And from that, I start building my own dictionary or my own style. So using AI wisely is not just borrowing or stealing someone else's design, but building your own design methodology. And those set of schedule is my own design methodology, which will give distinctive characteristics to my own also art and design formation. So starting with the architectural forms, I start understanding that this what expresses and reflects me as an architect. I would like to use the tensegrity, the tensile membrane structures, funicular forms, and maybe coupling that with parallel associated forms of constructs from nature. What is the flora, the arboreal architecture, the dendriforms? What is the bio? The oligonucleotide, and this is the last word that have been learned from the biology and from biology science, and start depicting that in architecture. What is your distinctive style? As I've mentioned earlier, what is the adjectives that will give you the best results, like crossbreeding of X and Y? Or use the word that looks like a design that looks like a jellyfish or a sun set or a Mars planet. What is the architecture? Is it a liminal space, Mars habitation system, oculus, which is a vocabulary, which means the window and the top. Also understanding your rendering style, your presentation style. For me as an architect, I use the photorealistic rendering more than any kind of an art style. So The most effective image qualities resulted from using the prompt Samsung S22 camera quality or DSLR quality. And previously I used the Canon B500 quality or Nikon sometimes. And what is the kind of composition that I'd like to use? On a white background shows so just a simple model that have been photographed, or it is a center composition, full page, sitting on grass or grassland, which isolates the design and gives much more focus on your architectural product, or on a frozen lake if you would like to have a reflection, which gives also or reveals another parameters and features of your design. About the presentation, is it extremely sharp lines, extremely contrast, glistering, magical, sensible lines, Vogue cover? Vogue cover, of course, is something that is borrowed from the Vogue cover magazine. Vintage style, the photography, what is some of those words were so much effective, like using award-winning photography or a wide angle shot or a drone eye bird. What is the proportions that you would like to use according to your presentation strategy and communication strategy later on? Would you like to use technical drawings, which also prove to be the most effective words are the set of words that I've been displaying right now. And later on, of course, this is one of the derived proportions that I've been using in various platforms for social media or even for your prompting. And what is the rendering, lighting, resolution, details level, and realism? All of those words. And as you can see, there are still several gaps, and this schedule has to be completed with a further experimentation that will be done later on in the future. Also, the environment, would it be a mist or a foggy style or epic? What is the place? What are the artists, your favorite artists? And when I say artist, I do not borrow a specific artist style, but study the art features that is produced by specific artists, and this is how can you grow, not by borrowing or stealing the name of the artist, and the AI will drive all of its art from his style, but try to understand his style and try to understand the features and try to reproduce it. What is the art school that you'd like to see? Would it be from a cinematic composition, digital cinematography, for example? What are the materials that you like to? Is your material palette? Try to define it. And after several experimentation, like those three images, the first one is from Cairo, and then from Berlin and from Helsinki, and those are three different longitudinal contour lines on Earth. So from warm color to neutral color to cold color, and that image, that color palette is also derived from another AI service, online service that just analyze and try to extract the color palette from the image that you uploaded. So I'm trying to understand how the geographical impact can be reflected. So after applying that methodology, a total different kind of images had been produced, totally different quality, not only a good design or the design that I'd like to see, but also a beautiful rendering, an award-winning kind of rendering. So after understanding this kind of prompting engineer, I've experimenting and applying that prompting engineer in several AI bots to reach this quality. And I have concluded finally that design notions are not the AI prompts. So what are the key advices for today, just to stand out of the crowd and try to be a big name in this field someday? First one is repeat the notions you want to see in your artwork, preferably with other consistent words. And that is defined by the weight. If some AI prompts and some AI bots like Midjourney, for example, it gives you something, a prompt called weight. If there is a direct tool for that, like weight, use it. If you don't have a direct tool, maybe on other prompts like Dawn AI or maybe Photolib, so try to repeat the words in different words, which leads to the same meaning, and that will also produce you the desired weight. The inspiration needs inspiration. So the more you read, the more you get familiar about a specific topic, the more you build up the set of words, the keywords, and at the same time, you will grow. So the accusation of AI that it will be decreasing our talent or maybe disrupting the education, I see it on the other hand that it will help us grow to a new level by reading and understanding and testing your philosophical constructs against what is how the public can understand and realize your philosophical construct. Number 3, each bot has its own biases. You have to understand that. So after reading and under experimenting the different data sets, try to choose your preferred, but also bear in mind that in the future, many of those AI bots will disappear, and just maybe two or three, in my opinion, that only two or three AI bots will be the dominant. So also create your own school of art, or your own style, or your own designs. Be distinctive to stand out of the crowd. And of course, number 5, it is an advice that we have taken years ago from our professors: draw, 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 which implies that iterations and variations and experimentation is the most important key success. Number 6, study the style you like most to use its prompts instead of mentioning the artist or the architect name. So work decently, work with dignity, and try to study your own original work. Number 7, always ask the AI bot to imagine as if you are an expert in a field. Like imagine or design for me as a seasoned biology scientist, etc., XYZ something. Number 8, break the norms, stand off the crowd, think out of the box, contradict the logic, create the impossible scenario. What you see today as impossible might be tomorrow's norm. Number 9, diversify in using AI bots and merge all of those together, using not only text image generators, but also GPT-3 technology with the text image generators, maybe analyzing kind of AI which extract the color palette and reproduce it again. Make your own workflow, design your own design pipeline. Number 10, don't use AI as a personal assistant, but rather as a partner to unlock synergies with you and bring new angles and see new angles. And last thing, do not forget to have fun. It will turn work into passion. And from the broad horizontal knowledge, start to develop your own vertical, deep, specific skills. And voila, I started building my own Midjourney dictionary. And I have a similar dictionary for each AI bot. So I have another one for the stable diffusion and a third one for DALL-E. So those are the main 3 dominant in the current time, and the most, I think, developed AI systems. So that was my journey, and thank you for having time and bearing the time to hear me out. I'm sorry that I took a little bit longer than time. Okay, so the floor is yours, Neil.
Thanks, Samir. Thanks so much. Let's start the questions now. If anyone would like to ask some questions, could they please put them in the chat? We have a question here for Samir, and I think there's also some previous ones. The first one for Samir. Is prompt engineering similar on all AI text to image platforms? For example, okay, well, there's. Do you want to maybe say something about it?
No, but let me clarify something. Yeah, of course there are biases, and biases results in different product and different outputs. But at the same time, all of them, if you just train or ask the AI bot to imagine for you a tree house using the steampunk style built by Zaha Hadid and Antonio Gaudi, all of them will just do whatever you ask them, but each one of them will give you another angle, a different angle, and that diversity in design, enrichment in your design, that gives you deeper insight. But the general prompting, that tutorial that I have been presenting today, will work on all kind of AI bots, but you have to understand that the output will be different. It is a unity within diversity relationship. All of them will carry the same commands and the same requests that you ask them for, but with a totally different design approach.
Okay, maybe Angelica, could I get you to select some of the questions from the chat there?
I'm looking at it. Naja says, why starting with Midjourney and then importing it to DALL-E? Why not just using DALL-E? Well, the first model that was launched publicly was DALL-E, and DALL-E is very faithful to reality and representation. And Midjourney, since the beginning, was more artistic, but then Midjourney started improving, and today they have the version 4, which is, depends also on what you want to do with your work, right? If you want more artistic things, you can use Midjourney. If you want more related to reality, you can use DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion is like kind of in between. But the models are changing, and Midjourney ended up being more precise on certain things. And the way that I was working, which I use a lot DALL-E because I was in the artist program, and basically to try prompts and generations, and to try to understand a little bit of the black box if that's possible. And we reached out the conclusion that it was until a certain point. But then I could achieve more interesting results, or even more for the ones that I producing, like maybe beautiful, using Midjourney, and then out painting and painting with DALL-E. I finished one presentation that I was selected to present at the Toronto Architecture and Film Festival, which I could, working with all of them, do like in and out images, alternating the models, and certain things that I couldn't manipulate with Midjourney, I would take it to DALL-E. So I believe the best way is to combine, but it will always depend on what are your purposes. Now that DALL-E is changing, and I can't wait to see what they are going to propose. So they're always improving, and we cannot keep up with all those changes. But that's my impression. And the one that I showed last, which is a control net, I think it's great in the sense, also like my students asking, oh, this is perfect, because they can take their drawings or their the models, the grasshopper or beam models, and then they can put it there, and then it's gonna render everything, even the surface and the background. But it's just at the beginning. But you can, I think the best way is to keep alternating. And as I said, it will depend on what your purpose is. It's like research, it's process, or just you want to do beautiful images, you're going to put something out, or maybe give somebody a nice image. I don't know. It will depend on what what are your objectives. And then there's another question.
Maybe I could just add something just briefly to that, okay. Angelica. I think that, I mean, one of the important things came out of the session today is I didn't know that someone was telling us that some of these map platforms are no longer available. And I think the real challenge is that these things are, the goalposts keep changing, right? In the sense that the models keep changing. I mean, fortunately on Midjourney, you can go back and use a previous model, but you can see there's been quite a significant difference between the V3, which I was using a lot, and it forced you to, was very different from DALL-E. It forced you to really work with it. DALL-E would just come out with an immediate kind of realistic, as it were, response, whereas you had to really work with Midjourney. Now, Midjourney V4 is much closer to DALL-E in many ways. So the whole notion of iteration is changing. I suspect that probably we're going to more towards DALL-E in the end, because that may be what people want. It's not really designed for designers, and designers, I think, like the freedom that they could get from working with the earlier versions of Midjourney. But it's important to see that it is changing the whole time. And I think just to kind of comment on what Sayary was saying, that you can add the word no, I mean, or minus sign or whatever, as a way of trying to kind of rectify
negative prompting.
Some of those problems. I mean, for example, I found that the latest version of Midjourney comes out very metallic, kind of metallic looking objects. There's a certain aesthetic that is kind of dominant. And if you add no metallic, you can get rid of that kind of problem. But it is quite a trick. You can navigate these things because everything is changing all the time. And as you say, Samir, some of these platforms are going to be disappearing, and we're going to end up with 2 or 3 dominant ones. Yeah, over to you, Angelica.
Okay, I guess there are already, and maybe some trying to pop up. Okay, the other question is about pricing. Let's see, would each editing step also count as one credit? The credits are counted by generations, so not by image, but how many generations you make. So if you doing out painting, you do count as well as one credit. So you just have the thing is, in order to, at the beginning, when you're getting familiarized with this, you spend a lot of credits. So for me, it was good that when DALL-E started, I would apply for the artist program, even if it was to do research, and then I was granted. It was really good for me because I could try a lot of things, and that's why you did our research. But then now let's see. Let's see what's happening. In Midjourney, it's sort of the same. I don't remember if Midjourney charges for each image or each generation. at the first, when you put the prompt at the first time, when it gives you 4 results. Of course, then if you want to change or scale or change the results, they're going to charge you one generation. I guess this is it. You?
Yeah, thank you, Angelica. We can hear you.
Okay. Did he fall on the?
Sorry, I was lost you a second there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there are a number of different variables you can play with. You can I forget what the term is you can use where you can get it a very rapid production, either that or you wait for relax mode. I found that relax mode is by far the best way to go, but I tend to sort of use it at an off-peak period because I'm based in California and there's not much happening at midnight, for example, California. But for sure, that's the case.
But that's only who pays the more expensive account. I have the cheapest account that doesn't have that option. So fast mode, sorry, I have a relaxed mode. It's all fast mode. One thing that I like to say about DALL-E, for me, as I would like to stress that the way that you work with DALL-E is it can be like a very back and forth, like you were working with the machine because it's in painting, out painting, and the Stable Diffusion also does out painting and in painting, but with DALL-E, you can expand the image up and around. And on Midjourney, you can set the image size previously, but on DALL-E, you can do a whole mural if you want. Just have to be careful and know that every time you step outwards, you need to add something, another thing. If not, it's going to get too abstract. I don't know what they're going to do about it because in the trials, the announcement that I received, they said it's going to be more precise on generation images, and the prompts might be changing as well, the way they use prompts. So let's see what's going on, what's happening. I think they were very focused on ChatGPT, but later, quietly, they were working on DALL-E too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what is going to happen is you're going to see these kind of hybrid developments where people are pairing off things like ChatGPT and with Midjourney or DALL-E and so on. I mean, there are many examples actually now that are emerging. The interesting kind of question right now is the fact that ChatGPT is so inaccurate. Well, it's only 80% accurate, should we say, which doesn't make it very useful. That's the problem in terms of using it as a search engine with Bing, because it doesn't. It's not very reliable. But with GPT-4, it will be more reliable for sure. It was interesting that yesterday, I think it was Joshua Vermillion used ChatGPT to generate a processing code, which looked very convincing. I asked him the question, did it actually work? And apparently it didn't, but soon it will do. And I think it's those kind of hybrid combinations which are completely unpredictable. You can produce a tool. What you can't predict is the way in which people use it. And I think that's where the real invention is coming through. And I predict that actually, or very, very soon, well, we're going to see this in fact later tutorials when we work on 2D to 3D and animation and so on, how people are pairing off these diffusion platforms with other tools and producing a kind of wild and wonderful landscape of new hybrid techniques. Do we have any more questions in the chat? I think maybe we might have used up those questions.
I would like to add something, a very tiny thing. Confirming what you have said earlier, there are some AI services like Tommy AI. Tommy AI produces some kind of presentation coupling the words and the images. It's a little bit primitives compared to ChatGPT and Midjourney, but the real novel part here that it combines both. So it produces and generates texts and images with the same slide. So we are witnessing what I defined as the early baby steps of such a service, which will be developed very shortly. So
that's the Microsoft, right? That's the Microsoft.
I guess yes. Tommy, it's called Tommy. TOME.ai.
I
also been using with the.
I decided to remove it. I think it's too many things to
it's overwhelming. We have flood of AI services. Some for I used some AIs to train my voice. Like 30 minutes training, and it produces whatever text with my voice, original voice, and I just post it for my students in lectures. This is a new sort of AI that I believe it will also merge into our packages. It just a few months.
I read yesterday a paper a model they're training a model to learn an MRI brain. What do you call exam when you do the MRI and you put it, so it gets
MRI,
the brain.
scan
The brain's I don't know, I call it images, and then it's trained on a diffusion model to produce an image, and then they see the image. Or I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that through the brain MRIs for somebody watching that image is going to produce another image similar to that. So that's crazy. I don't know. I didn't know read the whole thing.
I have read also papers like you are mentioning, Angelica, and it is really, I think it will be something that will work in our favor just to detect the early phases of tumors, maybe, or something like that. So maybe the future MRI machines will be equipped with the AI, not just to scan, but also to predict and generate a full medical report just on a tip of a finger. And you can just, like a vending machine, just go to a center and make your own service and realize your disease just in a few seconds. I think that will be the future in the near future, So, yeah.
Yeah, but this one sounded more like it can read your dreams. So I was a little scared.
I didn't imagine that, but yeah.
I'm gonna send you, then maybe you read it, and I couldn't read it. I was just reading superficially yesterday, and it seemed to me there was something like that. But I sent it to you also the paper.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think we should try and wrap this thing up now, because we don't take too long, because it needs to get on a sheet. These tutorials are short and sharp. I maybe just kind of like, perhaps I can just share my screen a second and just mention briefly a couple of things that are going to be coming up tomorrow. Well, first of all, next week we have some further tutorials in this series, back to our usual time of 10 a.m. In the morning. Tomorrow we start our the new series of architecture and philosophy. Not a new series, but a continuation of our existing series, where we're going to look at a series of thinkers and consider what their implications are for architecture. There are 7 weeks of this. These are the sessions that are listed out here. It's going to be super interesting. Some of these people are extremely fascinating. Bruno Latour tragically died last year, but we have Albina Yaneva, who did a PhD under Latour, talking about his impact for architecture. And tomorrow we have a session with Graham Gillock, who wrote 2 books on Siegfried Kracauer, on the relevance of Siegfried Kracauer to architects as a whole. I want to finish off by playing out with a contribution again from going back to Markos Kay, with the astonishing work that he presented that we started off this session with. I want to finish it, bookend it with 2 examples. I want to play you first of all the Portuguese, Markos Kay speaking Portuguese, and then in Arabic. So we will play ourselves out on that, and then we will see you next week. So here is Markos. Let me just check I've got my sound shared again. Just a moment. Yes, I have. Okay. Here is Markos Kay in Portuguese.
Olá, meu nome é Markos Kay. Sou um artista e diretor deficiente, PCD, com foco em arte e ciência. Nas últimas 2 décadas, tenho trabalhado exclusivamente com métodos de arte generativa. A arte generativa é qualquer tipo de arte criada com um sistema autônomo. É uma prática que tem uma longa história desde os tempos antigos. Nos tempos modernos, geralmente é associado à arte gerada por algoritmos de computador ou código com experimentos iniciais a partir da década de 1960. A maneira como a arte generativa computacional funciona é definindo parâmetros iniciais e, em seguida, deixando o computador gerar uma imagem com base nesses parâmetros. Ainda que haja controle sobre esses parâmetros iniciais, não há controle sobre exatamente o que o computador vai gerar, e assim a arte pode ser pensada como feita de forma autônoma. Em minha prática, sempre me propus dar ao computador o máximo de controle possível. Assumo o papel de diretor, guiando o computador para expressar meus conceitos e ideias, mas também deixando que ele se expresse por meio de seus algoritmos. Uma maneira de pensar sobre isso é como a filmagem de um documentário onde há controle sobre alguns aspectos como tempo e local, posicionamento de câmeras e equipamentos de gravação, mas os eventos podem acontecer por conta própria sem intervenção. A arte gerada por IA, inteligência artificial, é a evolução desse mesmo processo e o próximo passo na longa história da arte generativa. Com ferramentas de IA generativas, novamente definimos alguns parâmetros iniciais que colocam algoritmos em movimento que geram uma imagem com base nos dados de treinamento. Há um elemento de aleatoriedade adicionado a isso, conhecido como algoritmo de Monte Carlo, que é o mesmo método que o software 3D e as simulações científicas usam. A saída output é uma gravação dessa interação de algoritmos que foi acionada por nossa entrada input inicial. O impacto dessa tecnologia será enorme. Isso mudará a forma como abordamos muitas disciplinas e já está se tornando um novo paradigma na forma como abordamos o conhecimento e a ciência. Vejo a IA permeando todos os aspectos da criação digital e mudando a maneira como interagimos com os computadores em geral. Este é apenas o começo, e todos que estão experimentando este novo meio estão trazendo algo diferente para essa combinação. Em alguns anos, as ferramentas de IA e todas essas técnicas que estamos desenvolvendo agora se tornarão uma prática padrão no setor. Algumas pessoas acreditam que o resultado, output, da IA não é original, mas meramente um resultado. No entanto, esses resultados, outputs, são direcionados por nós e nossa combinação única de referências, pontos de vista e experiências, que trazem um elemento humano único à equação. O aspecto humano não pode ser separado da IA, é treinado em dados humanos e é criado por humanos. É uma ferramenta e uma forma de arte. A arte é sobre intenção e expressão e, portanto, é sobre comunicação humana. Cabe a nós usar esta ferramenta para comunicar de forma criativa e original. A tecnologia AI está dando aos artistas a chance de encontrar novos caminhos criativos e de se expressar de maneiras que não eram possíveis antes porque não havia tempo ou meios suficientes. Consegui visualizar projetos que pensei que nunca veriam a luz do dia em questão de dias. Como alguém com uma deficiência grave, isso foi nada menos que um milagre, pois me deu a capacidade de criar e me expressar novamente, que eu sentia ter perdido por causa da minha doença. Essa tecnologia está tornando a arte acessível a milhões de pessoas que antes não podiam se expressar por qualquer motivo ou limitação, o que é muito emocionante de se ver. Trabalhar de perto com IA pode ser um processo muito reflexivo e introspectivo. Há muitas coisas que ela pode revelar sobre nós mesmos e sobre a natureza da realidade. Como organismos e cérebros humanos, poderíamos ser comparados a modelos estatísticos que foram treinados com dados recebidos ao longo de milhares de anos, assim como esses sistemas de IA. Existe algo chamado efeito IA, em que toda vez que uma IA alcança algo, ela é descartada como uma inteligência não real. As pessoas podem estar fazendo isso inconscientemente para manter seu sentimento de singularidade, mas conforme a IA melhora em coisas que consideramos exclusivamente humanas, ela se torna um reflexo das maneiras como nossos sistemas biológicos são automatizados. Isso é fascinante porque, através da criação de simulações de processos cerebrais, como essas redes neurais, aprendemos mais sobre nossos próprios cérebros. Isso está de acordo com o meu trabalho das últimas 2 décadas, que tem sido uma investigação sobre como as simulações se tornaram as principais ferramentas de observação na ciência. Em última análise, esta tecnologia pode ser pensada como um reflexo da condição humana e um espelho para nos compreendermos melhor. É uma ferramenta incrível que abre um mundo de possibilidades e novas descobertas. Agora estamos apenas arranhando a superfície, isso é apenas o começo.
مرحبا، اسمي ماركوس كاي. أنا فنان ومخرج معاق مع التركيز على الفن والعلوم. على مدار العقدين الماضيين كنت أعمل حصريا مع أساليب الفن التوليدي. الفن التوليدي هو أي نوع من الفن تم إنشاؤه بنظام مستقل. إنها ممارسة لها تاريخ طويل يبدأ من العصور القديمة. في العصر الحديث يرتبط عادة بالفن الذي تم إنشاؤه بواسطة خوارزميات الكمبيوتر أو التعليمات البرمجية مع التجارب المبكرة بدءا من الستينيات. تتمثل الطريقة التي يعمل بها الفن التوليدي الحسابي في تحديد المعلمات الأولية ثم السماح للكمبيوتر بإنشاء صورة بناء على تلك المعلمات. على الرغم من وجود سيطرة على هذه المعلمات الأولية، إلا أنه لا يوجد سيطرة على ما سيولده الكمبيوتر بالضبط، وبالتالي يمكن اعتبار الفن على أنه مصنوع بشكل مستقل. في ممارستي الخاصة كنت أخطط دائما لمنح الكمبيوتر أكبر قدر ممكن من التحكم. أقوم بدور المخرج حيث أقوم بتوجيه الكمبيوتر للتعبير عن مفاهيم وأفكار، ولكن أيضا أتركه يعبر عن نفسه من خلال خوارزمياته. إحدى طرق التفكير في هذا الأمر هي مثل تصوير فيلم وثائقي، حيث يكون هناك سيطرة على بعض الجوانب مثل الوقت والمكان وتحديد مواقع الكاميرات وأجهزة التسجيل، ولكن يسمح للأحداث بالعرض بمفردها دون تدخل. الفن الذي تم إنشاؤه بواسطة الذكاء الاصطناعي هو تطور هذه العملية نفسها والخطوة التالية في التاريخ الطويل للفن التوليدي. باستخدام أدوات الذكاء الاصطناعي التوليدية قمنا مرة أخرى بتعيين بعض المعلمات الأولية التي تحدد الخوارزميات في الحركة، والتي تقوم بعد ذلك بإنشاء صورة بناء على بيانات التدريب. هناك عنصر من العشوائية يضاف إلى ذلك يعرف باسم خوارزمية مونت كارلو، وهي نفس الطريقة التي يستخدمها البرنامج ثلاثي الأبعاد والمحاكاة العلمية. الناتج هو تسجيل لهذا التفاعل بين الخوارزميات التي تم تشغيلها من خلال مدخلاتنا الأولية. سيكون تأثير هذه التكنولوجيا هائلاً. سيغير الطريقة التي نتعامل بها مع العديد من التخصصات، وقد أصبح بالفعل نموذجاً جديداً في الطريقة التي نتعامل بها مع المعرفة والعلوم. أرى الذكاء الاصطناعي يتغلغل في كل جانب من جوانب الإنشاء الرقمي، ويغير الطريقة التي نتفاعل بها مع أجهزة الكمبيوتر بشكل عام. هذه ليست سوى البداية، وكل شخص يقوم بتجربة هذه الوسيلة الجديدة يجلب شيئاً مختلفاً إلى هذا المزيج. في غضون بضع سنوات ستصبح أدوات الذكاء الاصطناعي وكل هذه التقنيات التي نطورها الآن ممارسة قياسية في الصناعة. يعتقد بعض الناس أن ناتج الذكاء الاصطناعي ليس أصلياً، ولكنه مجرد مشتق. ومع ذلك يتم توجيه هذه المخرجات بواسطتنا ومن خلال توليفتنا الفريدة من المراجع ووجهات النظر والخبرات، والتي تجلب عنصراً بشرياً فريداً إلى المعادلة. لا يمكن فصل الجانب الإنساني عن الذكاء الاصطناعي، فهو مدرب على البيانات البشرية ويتم إنشاؤه بواسطة البشر. إنها أداة ونموذج فني في نفس الوقت. الفن يدور حول النية والتعبير، وبالتالي فهو يتعلق بالتواصل البشري. يعود الأمر إلينا لاستخدام هذه الأداة للتواصل بطرق إبداعية ومبتكرة. تتيح تقنية الذكاء الاصطناعي للفنانين الفرصة لإيجاد مسارات إبداعية جديدة والتعبير عن أنفسهم بطرق لم تكن ممكنة من قبل، لأنه لم يكن هناك ما يكفي من الوقت أو الوسائل. لقد تمكنت من تصور المشاريع التي اعتقدت أنها لن ترى ضوء النهار في غضون أيام. باعتباري شخصاً يعاني من إعاقة خطيرة، لم يكن هذا أقل من معجزة، لأنه منحني القدرة على الإبداع والتعبير عن نفسي مرة أخرى التي شعرت أنني فقدتها بسبب مرضي. تتيح هذه التقنية الوصول إلى الفن لملايين الأشخاص الذين لم يتمكنوا من التعبير عن أنفسهم من قبل لأي سبب أو قيود، وهو أمر مثير للغاية لرؤيته. يمكن أن يكون العمل عن كثب مع الذكاء الاصطناعي عملية عاكسة واستبطانية للغاية. هناك الكثير من الأشياء التي يمكن أن تكشفها عن أنفسنا وطبيعة الواقع. بصفتنا كائنات بشرية وأدمغة، يمكن مقارنتنا بالنماذج الإحصائية التي تم تدريبها على البيانات الواردة على مدى آلاف السنين تماماً مثل أنظمة الذكاء الاصطناعي هذه. هناك شيء يسمى تأثير الذكاء الاصطناعي، حيث في كل مرة يحقق فيها الذكاء الاصطناعي شيئاً ما يتم إهماله على أنه ليس ذكاء حقيقياً. قد يفعل الناس هذا دون وعي للاحتفاظ بشعورهم بالتفرد، ولكن مع تحسن الذكاء الاصطناعي في الأشياء التي نعتبرها بشرية حصرية، يصبح انعكاساً للطرق التي يتم بها أتمتة أنظمتنا البيولوجية. هذا رائع لأنه من خلال إنشاء عمليات محاكاة لعمليات الدماغ مثل هذه الشبكات العصبية نتعلم المزيد عن أدمغتنا. يرتبط هذا بعملي على مدار العقدين الماضيين، والذي كان بمثابة تحقيق حول كيف أصبحت المحاكاة الأدوات الرئيسية للملاحظة في العلوم. في النهاية، يمكن اعتبار هذه التكنولوجيا على أنها انعكاس لحالة الإنسان ومرآة لنا لفهم أنفسنا بشكل أفضل. إنها أداة رائعة تفتح عالماً من الاحتمالات والاكتشافات الجديدة. الآن نحن فقط نخدش السطح، هذه فقط البداية.
Thank you, Markos Kay. Your work is inspiration to us all. See you all next week. Thank you, Markos.